take over the world. I was going to take over the world. Then I slept over. That's our president, elect God. And you know what he is. Now I invite him to let him talk, inspire us with his words of wisdom to grow Rotary. And also, he says, peace is everything. Peace is love. I would like to hear how peace is love. Please give a big hand to President-elect Gordon. It's all yours.
Well, thank you so very much. I have to say, I have been introduced on many occasions in many places, but I have never witnessed an introduction like that. Thank you so much. You're far too kind, you're far too generous. And I don't know about anybody else on the call, but after a build-up like that, I cannot wait to hear what I have got to say to you today, because it was absolutely marvelous. Thank you so much. And it's a great pleasure and a privilege to be with you today. We've had all the good morning, good afternoon, good evenings. I heard a wonderful greeting for a virtual call like this just the other day, and that is quite simply good time zone. So good time zone to you all, and greetings from Scotland. I am enjoying a few days here at home en route between Singapore, where I was last week, and Brazil, where, as you have already heard, I shall be next week. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say it's nice to be at home for a few days. But I also feel very at home as I look around my computer screen and see so many familiar faces, both live in the meeting and indeed also on that welcome video you shared earlier. It is great to see so many Rotary friends coming together at this time, and I'm delighted to be with you. And I'm delighted also to have this chance to talk a bit about the future of Rotary and member engagement, two very important things as we go forward. There can be little doubt we live in challenging times, and I hope you don't think I'm exaggerating when I say things might never be the same again. But you know, that need not be a bad thing. I'm a great believer in looking for positives in any negative, and there have been a great many positives to come out of the challenging situation that we currently find ourselves in. Positives like the opportunity for us to stop and pause and take stock and reevaluate our priorities in life and in the society in which we live. Positives like the opportunity for us to take stock and reevaluate the way we operate in Rotary at every level, from club through district and zone, all the way to Rotary International. And using the term Rotary International reminds me that I frequently think we lose sight of that second word on our Rotary pin, the one that says international. And of course, the many restrictions placed on us by the pandemic that we have been living through has meant we had to pivot overnight to virtual meetings. And that certainly brought home to us the word international as we engaged with fellow members of Rotary all around the world. And today's meeting is a classic example of that. Representatives from every continent all around the world. This could never have happened 2 years ago. Well, actually, it could have happened. It just didn't happen. And aside from changing the way we meet, Rotary's response to the pandemic was phenomenal, as Rotary clubs everywhere stepped up to the plate and became the social safety net that many governments couldn't be, or in some cases chose not to be. And within the first few weeks of the pandemic, the Rotary Foundation dispersed over $30 million in hundreds of grants to alleviate suffering and provide assistance and it has continued to do so. As contributors to the Rotary Foundation, you have been part of that effort, and I thank each and every one of you who have done so. Clubs and districts all over the world, especially those in countries with less robust health services, worked actively on the front line of the vaccination effort that has seen us beat this virus. As you might expect, Rotary did what it is best at. It helped others, it made a difference, and it did good in the world. But what of the future? I hear a lot of people saying that they have a fear we may be just at the beginning of the challenges COVID-19 has presented us with, as we start to build back our communities and our world, even if this start is being delayed rather longer than we had all first hoped, thanks to other factors such as the conflict in Eastern Europe and the consequent spiraling increase in energy prices. But we should have nothing to fear. As time goes by, the governments of the world will seek to rebuild our economy and with it our society. I know in some cases, communities have actually been strengthened by the challenges of the COVID pandemic. The communities with whom you work might fall into that category, but not all have. And so the big question is, who's going to help rebuild the weakened communities? Who's going to heal the rifts and divisions exposed by the pandemic? Who's going to reach across the divide? Who's going to rebuild a sense of unity that says we can and we will make a difference in the lives around us? Well, I would suggest that as Rotarians, we are among the best positioned to lead the rebuilding, the reforming, and the reshaping that will be needed in our communities. This is who we are. This is what we do. In fact, you could say we were built for this. You know your communities better than anyone else. You know their strengths and you know their weaknesses. You know the good and the bad, the joys and the sorrows. You know, and I'm sure in many cases, you love these communities. And I'm certain you care about what happens and you seek the very best for them. It's interesting to note that Rotary has always built back better following crises. Our membership and, more importantly, our ability to serve grew following the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. We grew after the Great Depression of 1921. We grew after the Asian flu pandemic of 1957. And we also grew after both world wars. But I would suggest that only happened because we seized an opportunity. As hopefully we find ourselves now approaching the end of another crisis, you, me, all of us must seize this opportunity to take Rotary forward into the new normal. But we need to do it now before the opportunity passes. We're changing faster than ever at the moment in terms of embracing new technology. And I think we have probably seen the sort of changes that would have taken place anyway over the next 5 to 10 years happen since the COVID pandemic struck. I believe as we do come out of it, there is a big conversation to be had about our future. I mentioned earlier about looking for positives in the current negative. And it is vital that there is a positive legacy to this pandemic. I couldn't help but notice that up until the end of August, almost 6.5 million people in our world had died from coronavirus. These 6.5 million people are not just a statistic, they're not just a number. Doubtless some of them were known to you. They were husbands. They were wives, they were mothers, they were fathers, they were brothers, they were sisters, they were colleagues, and they were friends. And so I firmly believe we owe it to their memory to make sure we go forward in a positive way and better serve the community we live in. It is all about seizing the opportunities. And these opportunities will help us all as we try to improve Rotary and we steer it into the future. If I may, I'd like to give you a few examples of how we can go about achieving that improvement and how already we can learn from our collective experiences over the last 2 years. Firstly, at district level and beyond. My own and many other districts' training and leadership development events have seen record attendances. Our district training assemblies and the PET sessions have been the best attended in years because they were held online. And we're also seeing that virtual events allow us to reach a much wider audience than previously achieved due to the savings in cost and time factors. The 2020 virtual Rotary International Convention saw the highest attendance ever at an international convention, the highest by far. There were more than 60,000 participants. And things like the various webinars and online meetings, things like this, that are springing up to allow new Rotarians and existing Rotarians to become better informed of the wider benefits of all that Rotary offers beyond just the club. Our personal Rotary development can be significantly enhanced with the greater use of Rotary's online learning centre. We can take more ownership of our own learning, which leads to a better exchange of ideas and sharing of best practices, and therefore better service. Virtual working also allows us to make more effective use of our leader and volunteer time. District governors and assistant governors were and are now visiting clubs via Zoom, rather than driving or flying all around their districts, saving them a lot of time and trouble, not to mention the cost savings and benefit to the environment through less travel. And there are other interesting aspects of what can be enhanced thanks to new ways of doing things and new ways of thinking. Probably the most important thing about Rotary post-COVID are the opportunities that come at club level. And after all, it is within our clubs that the work of Rotary is done. We now have so much more flexibility. We can welcome visitors to meetings from all over the globe, just as we're doing today. When we moved to online meetings, and for more than a year thereafter, my Rotary Club held a monthly conversation event. I know that some of you attended it. We feature people like past RI presidents Ravi Ravindran, Holger Knack, and Shekhar Mehta, to name a few. We also welcomed President Jennifer Jones and General Secretary John Hugo. In total, over the course of the time we ran that event, we welcomed 7 past presidents of Rotary International, the sitting and the future president of Rotary International, the chair of the trustees of the Rotary Foundation, and a number of past Rotary International directors as our speakers. We had well over 200 attending from more than 20 countries all around the world, many of whom, through meeting in that forum, went on to work together on collaborative projects. That would never have happened in the days before COVID. It was a good use of technology and a good way to embrace the challenges being placed on us by the pandemic. Now, all that said, I am not, however, advocating that we live out the rest of our Rotary lives sitting in front of a computer. In my view, going forward, we probably need to keep a mix of virtual and in-person meetings. Frankly, I don't see why things like club and district committee meetings and such like that can't be held online permanently. But we need to get back more and more to seeing each other in 3 dimensions rather than just in a small box on a computer screen. We are, after all, social animals. So I see the club meeting of the future being a hybrid, blended affair where those of us who can and who want to meet face-to-face do so. But at the same time, we provide the opportunity to those who cannot or do not wish to do so, to join in the meetings on a virtual basis. Virtual or blended club meetings mean that inspiring speakers are now much more accessible to engage a wider audience beyond existing Rotarians, and can help embrace potential new members on a whole variety of topical issues and interests. They can also help us engage with former members who may be interested in returning to Rotary now that they can do so in another manner. And of course, there is also now so much opportunity to embrace new club models that don't need to be bound by style of meeting, by geography, or by suitability of a venue. These new club models allow us to engage with a different audience. An audience that maybe doesn't want to meet every week. An audience that maybe doesn't want to dine. An audience that maybe doesn't want to meet face to face, but would be happier meeting in a manner that might not be our first choice, but which suits them. An audience that wants to do things and be people of action. And don't be under any illusions, that audience has every bit as much of a social conscience as me and you. It wants to do good in the world, it just wants to do it in a different way. And that is why my vision for Rotary includes a desire to see clubs everywhere that operate in a style and in a manner to suit everyone who wants to be part of us. And that brings me nicely to the topic of engagement, because it's only by engaging our new, and for that matter, our existing members, that we'll begin to stem the turnover we see in our membership. Did you realize that between 2009 and 2019, 1.3 million people joined Rotary? And yet over the same 10-year period, slightly more than 1.3 million people left Rotary. Did you know that 1 in 10 people who join Rotary leave again during the same year they join? Now, whose fault is that? Well, let me be plain. I don't believe it is the fault of those who leave, which means it is the fault of those of us who remain. For far too long, we've been fixated on getting more and more new members, but we don't take proper care of them. We don't engage them. We recruit a new member, and then we park them in a corner and we go off to find the next new member. No wonder people leave so soon. As some of you know, I am a keen gardener. I would never dream of planting a new plant in my garden and then ignoring it while I go off and plant another plant in another part of the garden. No, I nurture that new plant. I make sure it's established. I make sure it develops roots. And then, and only then, do I go off and plant another part of the garden. And that's how it must be for us when a new member joins. We must nurture them and ensure they develop strong Rotary roots. We must engage them. President Jennifer talks about her comfort and care philosophy, and I agree 100% with it. But I want to go even further. We've all seen over the past 2.5 years the need for us to take care of one another. We regularly check in on how we're feeling. Some of that is a matter of safety, making sure we're being as careful as we can to protect each other from the virus that swept our world. But some of that is about our personal well-being too. This is an important societal change that has taken place, and I think we need to build on it. We need to make Rotary an organisation where it is routine for us to check in on one another. And if we're facing challenges, provide places to turn. It's not something unique to us. A few years ago, a couple of US National Basketball Association stars opened up about some of the mental health challenges they had dealt with. DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love used their Twitter accounts to speak openly and bravely about their challenges with depression and anxiety. A reporter followed up with De Rosen a few weeks later and asked how these exchanges felt for him. And he said, they went okay, but most fans had a lot easier time talking about knee injuries than depression. And this is something I have noticed as well. It was brought home to me quite forcibly at the start of the COVID pandemic, when following all the guidelines set by the Scottish Government, I stayed at home, supposedly to stay safe. Well, that didn't go altogether well, because as I was walking through our garden here in the Scottish borders one Sunday morning, early in the first of the lockdowns, I slipped and there was a loud crack that could probably have been heard halfway around the world. I had broken my ankle, and for the next 6 weeks, I was in a moon boot and had to hobble around on crutches. As word spread, my telephone never stopped ringing. My email inbox was never fuller. Anne-Marie, our wonderful village post lady, was never done delivering get well cards. And the ping of incoming texts and WhatsApp messages ran out all day, every day, as people inquired as to my health and showered me with support and good wishes. At the same time, a good friend, who for many years had been living with clinical depression, sank into a deep trough that saw him make an attempt on his own life. Thankfully, he was found in time. But as I spent time with him during the days and the weeks that followed, initially on the telephone because of the lockdown and then face to face, I quickly realized I was one of very few people who had reached out to him. My need was insignificant compared to his. I had only broken a bone. Yet there I was being inundated by well-wishers, whilst he was almost ignored. And I might point out, we have a very similar circle of friends. These kind of reactions are all too common, but that doesn't mean they are right. To be able to ask for help, people need to be able to say that something's wrong. And as people who are dedicated to service above self, we need to show just as much care and compassion for each other as we do to everyone to whom we provide service. There's a phrase that's becoming more and more common here in Scotland just now, and that phrase is, it's okay not to be okay. And you know what? It is okay not to be okay. This is a subject that I hope to talk about more in the future. It won't need a major polio-like commitment for us to make a difference. The first step is to listen. The second step is to help people who need care to find it and to support them as they receive it, to engage them. If I may begin to conclude, as I glance around my screen at so many familiar faces, I'm delighted that you have embraced the challenges being placed on us at present, and that you've adjusted so well to the changing world around us. That in itself is an achievement of which you should be proud. You are an example to many just how to make the current situation work, and I commend you for that. But all of Rotary needs to capitalise on this amazing opportunity to take a greater leap and to move forward faster. All of us in Rotary can be very proud of our heritage and where we've come from. But we must embrace change so we adapt for a vibrant and even more relevant future. And I am bold enough to believe that we will. Back in 1966, the US Senator, the late Robert F. Kennedy, whilst addressing the University of Cape Town in South Africa, said, and I quote, "Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also the most creative of any time in the history of mankind. And everyone here will ultimately be judged, will ultimately judge themselves on the effort they have contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which their ideals and goals have helped shape that effort." End quote. Well, 56 years on from Kennedy's address, in these current times of danger and uncertainty, let us recognize that they are also among the most creative of any time in the history of Rotary. Let's make sure we are judged on the effort we have contributed to rebuild our world and the extent our combined ideals and goals have shaped that effort, as we firstly imagine and then create a better place for the generations who follow us to grow. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you for everything you do for Rotary. Maybe more importantly, thank you for everything you will do for Rotary. If I leave you with only one thought, let it be this. As we move forward and exit the COVID pandemic once and for all, we cannot afford to go back to how things were. So let's make sure we don't just build back better. Let's make sure we build forward better. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, President-elect Gordon. I have a small task for you. The task is, may I request you to introduce Ron Burgundy and Pablo Escobar.
Ron Burgundy and Pablo Escobar, what a combination.
Can you introduce me?
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know if that's going to be possible. One of them.
No, he will introduce. I know he can. That was the comment made by your daughter on your wedding anniversary.
Well, yeah.
Thank you very much, President Gordon. Really, I was a little afraid while making this introduction, which I have to make last minute, whether you will appreciate, but I learned somewhere in your interview, you like to laugh. I picked up that one and I said, okay, let me try this one. Going in traditionally reading the big things and which all the Rotarians can read. Well, before I request Rotarian Alberto from Brazil to go on to Q&A, I request Rotarian, we have District Governor-elect Vivek here on the call. If you could pin him and he wants to speak to President-elect Gordon. Could you pin him? Rotarian DZ Vivek, will you please put your video on so that Alberto can see you?
Just raise your hand electronically and I'll be able to unmute him.
Let me see where he is.
His name again, and I'll do it.
DZE Vivek. DZE Vivek. Yes, here he is.
Yeah, here it is. So that's to unmute. Okay. I did ask him to unmute.
Okay, unmute.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, hi, Jordan. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, Thank you, Kishan Bhai, for giving this opportunity. I am District Governor-elect from District 3110. A very simple question to the RIP is, what do you see, how is Rotary going to change in times to come, and especially in your tenure as far as the future of Rotary is concerned?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think, first of all, I do think that we do need to continue to change. I think if you look back, Rotary has always been changing. But I think one of the ways that we need to continue to change is that we need to embrace the concept of being people of action. We need to do things. It's not enough to talk about doing things. It's not enough to meet for the sake of meeting, but we need to get out there and do more service. And of course, to do more service, we need more members. And that is why I want to see new styles of clubs created that will allow people to join us in a manner that suits them. If they want to join us for a lunch on a Wednesday, that's great. But if they want to join us for coffee on a Saturday morning, or if they want to join us for breakfast on a Thursday, that's great as well. And so that's really what I want to see us becoming, is more inclusive and embracing everybody who wants to be part of us.
Thank you, Jordan. One more question, Kishanji, can I ask one more question?
Maybe in the next round.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have District Governor-elect from 2190. Easy Basir. He wants to ask something. Can you pen him? Let me also search him.
Put his name in the chat and I'll pick him up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the names on that part of the world, so
Okay.
my apologies.
He is from Lebanon, Dr. Basir. BASIR.
George Hazar, you mean?
No, Basir. DZ 2490.
Basir, okay. Yeah, okay. I asked him to unmute right now.
Yes, he is there. He's here. Governor George Basir.
This is Governor George Hazar, but I asked us to, well, you can probably talk to Governor George Hazar for a second. Maybe he has a question. He's got pinned right now.
Yes, here he is.
Okay.
DZ Basir, please unmute yourself.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, but I didn't ask to talk, so I'm sorry, I don't have any question. I hope to meet you in January in Florida.
Look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. You have DZ Ravindran from Sri Lanka. Rajendran from Sri Lanka. Can you look for him? J. Rajendran from Sri Lanka. Can you raise the hand, please?
I kindly request the participants that put their country, their city and country, and that way we can identify them.
Yes. No, I sent to them that only. Okay.
Well, we have a lot of raised hands. I don't know if we're going to have time for everybody.
No, I
so
think
our
better you ask
apologies.
questions, Alberto. the questions which you have in chat box. I have many questions sent from email, which I'll follow later. First, you do in the chat box, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, President-elect Gordon, for such a remarkable address to us about membership engagement. I am certain that everybody here needs to hear from the President-elect what are a lot of us Rotarians feeling about this revolving door that we have in Rotary. So I use the privilege of conducting the questions and answers just to make a provocation. Well, first of all, everybody here, you have the instructions to submit your questions in the chat box. Start them in capital letters so I can identify them, so we can pass it on to our President-elect and keynote speaker. Okay, we have here a few provocations. So one is from Ludwig Kathoff from District 1900, and he is my fellow member at ESRAC, the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. And well, ESRAC has some sort of a competition called I Fix the Planet. By the way, we have President Holger Kanak that has been very helpful to us because he is a heavy supporter of this area of focus. President-elect, how do we engage Rotarians and potential Rotarians using the environment cause that was recently adopted in Rotary? And what is your position about that? What are your thoughts about environment in Rotary?
Well, if I tell you I'm also a member of ESRAG, that might give you some indication as to my interest in the environment. And I think the environment is an essential part of our work going forward. We have to be working on sustaining the environment, and I was thrilled and delighted that we brought it on as a 7th area of focus. There has been little or no pushback at all about that, and I think it's absolutely key to our future. And as you so rightly say, Alberto, it's also key to the future in terms of developing new members, because there are people who would want to associate with Rotary because we have an environment focus. And already there are people I'm hearing who want to be part of Rotary because they want to work with Rotary on the environment. And of course, we're already doing a great deal. I'll be honest with you, I don't think Rotary alone can solve the climate change crisis that the world currently has. But every little helps. And every time I see Rotary clubs involved in environmental issues, it gladdens my heart, because I realize that all these small things combine to make a bigger difference. And I think from planting mangroves to cleaning up rivers to removing the use of single-use plastics, all these sort of things will make a difference in the long term. And so I fully intend to promote the importance of the environment area of focus while I'm president. But more importantly, I intend to work on that as well, going way beyond 2024, because it's essential that we do. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
You are mute.
Thank you very much. We also have a comment from Oderico Cavaglia of the Rotary ICA Club. It seems like the environment is came here. Probably our president-elect using his ESRAC membership, he also advertised for this meeting because half of us are here. But okay, it is important to think about the members of the future, and future members do not like the traditional Rotary Club model. So it is necessary to boost new club models and pigital farms. And I didn't know this term is a new English term for me, the mix between physical and digital. So
Yeah.
please, President-elect Gordon,
So
expand on this.
that's a new term to me as well. But I refer back to what I was saying earlier about making sure that we have clubs that operate in different styles. It's not a question of one size fitting all. We need to make sure that we have a whole range of clubs that meet in a different manner. Some may be 100% online, some may be 100% face-to-face. Some, there's a great movement now for passport clubs where people are part of Rotary, and indeed we're starting one here in the borders of Scotland. My wife's very involved in setting one up here, and that is becoming very attractive to people who want to do things. I come back to what I said earlier about there are people who are not so keen just to meet for the sake of meeting. People can network in so many other ways nowadays, but they are keen to do things, and they are keen to be working to improve their communities and to improve the world community. And so that's why we need to have different styles of club. That we're always going to need the traditional Rotary Club. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we should be forcing change on some of the traditional clubs, because there are people who want to operate in that style. But we also need to have clubs operating in a different style, a less formal style, a less structured manner, and ensure that we can provide a Rotary home for people regardless of how they want to do their Rotary.
Thank you. Oh, we have an interesting one. This is a challenging one, I think. What are the plans for the Interact clubs in Rotary International? What aid or support do you plan on giving Interact clubs at the district level? This is a question and comment from Avatika Dar from the Interact Club of Bangalore.
Okay, well, I'm a big fan of Interact, because I see Interact's place in the Rotary family as being key, because we have Interact, we have ROTARACT, we have Rotary. We're all one. We're all one. And if we need, the clubs need to support the Interact clubs, and we need to ensure that they are provided with all the knowledge that they require on the ways of Rotary, so that hopefully through time, the Interactors of today will become the Rotaractors of tomorrow, and therefore the Rotarians of the day after. But one thing I will say about ROTARACT, if I may spin it into ROTARACT at this stage, is that we hear a lot of people saying that ROTARACT is the future of Rotary. ROTARACT is not the future of Rotary. ROTARACT is the present of Rotary. And we as members of Rotary clubs need to work very hard to integrate Rotary and ROTARACT, because we can learn so much, and I'm learning already so much from Rotaractors. We have this expression, reverse mentoring, and I'm learning a great deal from Rotaractors at the moment, and I'm determined that we will move forward with the relationship between ROTARACT and Rotary. It's early days. I was speaking to somebody about it in Singapore. I was saying in many ways, we're still just dating. We've not got beyond the dating stage, but we are going to move forward from dating to a much more sustainable relationship. That is for sure.
Yeah, and you kind of advance yourself at one of the common questions from Karlis Barkovic, who is the president of ROTARACT Europe. He is asking, what are your plans to connect Rotary with ROTARACT to increase the cooperation and impact?
Yeah, well, as I say, make sure that we don't consider ourselves different. We're all members of Rotary, whether you're wearing a ROTARACT pin or a Rotary pin or whatever. We're all members of Rotary, and we work together and we learn from each other. And I think that's the important thing. Rotary is not there to teach ROTARACT. Rotary is there to learn from ROTARACT, and we need to break down that barrier, that boundary.
Excellent. Well, let's switch gears here for a moment. I see your background reminds me of Polio Plus. Those are the colors of Polio Plus. And there is a comment here from Kumas Ravami Pillai. I don't know, sorry, apologize. I don't know if it's he or she. He says the following: World over, Rotary clubs are spending a lot of money and resources on various service projects. Can we think of pulling all such resources to one or two visible and needed projects so that we'll be able to make some perceptible changes, will bring good names to the organization, like Polyplus is doing for us now? Talking about the future of Rotary, what do you envision about, I mean, we are so close to the polio eradication, even though we have proven that this last mile, last inches of polio have been so costly and taking so long time, such a long time.
Absolutely. And the first thing I would say is we must never, at the moment, none of us must ever take our eyes off the prize of eradicating polio. Because as we've seen just recently, we've seen some slippage, and we've seen 18 cases worldwide this year, which is more than we saw last year. And we've seen some outbreaks in places that we would not have expected to see outbreaks. And so it's essential that we continue to keep our eye on that particular ball, and that is the eradication of polio. But in terms of pooling resources, we're beginning to see that happen with the Foundation's projects of scale. And you'll be familiar with the fact that we now have projects of scale. I think of one in Africa, which is addressing malaria in Zambia. And so it is possible to do those large scale projects. But we also have to make sure that we support the smaller projects as well. And there are so many needy causes that I would not want to see us moving to a point where we had no support for the smaller projects. I think it's essential that we identify projects within our own areas that we can then address as well, because that has a twofold effect. One, it addresses the issue, and secondly, it shows Rotary for what it is, and consequently, it makes it an attractive thing for people to join.
Thank you very much, Gordon, for those comments. We are ending here the questions that were in the chat box, but again, I'm going to use my privilege as Q&A since we have a little bit of time on that allotment. And what about programs of a scale by area of focus? Would that be too much to ask?
I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, you know, any program of scale has to fit within an area of focus.
Yes,
but to do seven at a time might be a big ask, because the foundation only has a limited amount of money, and we need to. The other thing we need to do is we need to build support for the foundation. I was quite shocked when I read that only 1 in 3 members of Rotary make a personal contribution to the foundation. 1 in 3. So 2/3 of our membership make no contribution to the foundation whatsoever. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think we should all be making, not telling people that they have to make a large contribution, but I think we should all be making some contribution. Because only by making a contribution can you have true ownership of something. And if you want to have ownership of the foundation, then you've got to contribute to it. And so one of the things that Barry Rassin and myself, because Barry will be chair of the trustees next year, Barry and I are very keen to encourage everybody, according to their means, to make some sort of contribution to the foundation. And that will then give us a bigger pot to then do more projects of scale, perhaps. Whether we can push it as far as 7 at any one time, that might be a tough call, but we will certainly be looking to increase the amount of money that we have available to do good work with.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon, for your interaction with us here today. I'm ending this question and answer session by first thanking my president, who is here present, Kishan, Cristian Evaldo, our president for Imagine Rotary. And we have a policy of 1 year extension of president. So who knows if Cristiane wants, I am putting her on the spot here because she sees who the next president of Rotary is, and perhaps she has the opportunity to serve under your leadership, Gordon. So thank you very much for for your comments. I want to end just for a comment of yours to expand on listen, engage, move, and make it happen, as you said at the end.
Thank you, Alberto, for moderating.
Oh, Kishan, let Gordon expand on that.
No, I simply thank you for that comment. Thank you.
Okay, I have a small question to President-elect. It's a question going on in various Rotary circles all over the world, you might be aware, and you are the one who has really experienced the regional Rotary taking care of the regional. Because you have really worked as a president of Rotary International in Great Britain Island, I request you to say a few words about that.
Well, yes, I think regionalization is a very important issue. And I think we need to explore regionalization in Rotary at this time because of where we are in terms of technology, in terms of communication and everything else. As you rightly say, the Rotary clubs within Great Britain and Ireland for more than 100 years have had regionalization and have operated in a manner that suits this particular part of the world. But never forget and never think otherwise. We are part of Rotary International, not apart from Rotary International. And so I think going forward, and we're seeing the likelihood of a pilot project in Zone 8, which is Australia, New Zealand, and that part of the world, to test the waters as to what could be devolved away from the centre. There will be certain things that cannot be devolved away from the centre, but a lot of administration and so forth could be operated on a regional basis to suit the particular regions. And it needn't all wait until the next Council on Legislation or the Council on Legislation after that. There's nothing to stop regions at the moment beginning to look at what might be possible within their areas. And so I think looking forward, and it's not going to happen in the next year or 2 years, it's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. I think we're going to see a more regionalized Rotary from an administration point of view, but then we will also see the centre and the Rotary core values, which will never be devolved and never be changed. We must all have the same core values. It's more about administration than anything else.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President-elect Gordon. My apologies to some of the Rotarians because we are short of time. We couldn't give you time to speak to him, President-elect Gordon. And now I invite past District Governor Sharp Alawer, who is known as Messiah of global grants all over the world, to propose a vote of thanks to President-elect Gordon Mack. It's all yours.
Thank you. President-elect, you know, behind that big smile and you're carrying yourself in a beautiful, kind manner, I can see the deep thinking for the future of Rotary. After we have listened to all the messages at the beginning, I fall short of thanking you enough and the energy behind these Rotarians. I want to thank Kishan and Alberto for being moderators, and Kishan, you've done very well in the Rotary world as connecting the Rotarians. I want to especially thank all the over 130 clubs and Friend of Kindness that bring us to these meetings. This is not the first time that your kindness spilled. A couple of weeks ago, we were together at the Independence Day for Ukraine. And your message of kindness, love, and caring, it goes a long way in a world full of challenges nowadays. as I summarize some of the points you have hit today, it tells us how important it is to stick to this kind of thinking, deep thinking. We talked about e-learning, virtual meeting, new ways of doing things, opportunities on club level, and building the importance of our leadership in aiding the Rotarians, important of getting back to our service audience beyond Rotarians, former members, go back to former members, new club models, engagement, environmental, and importance of nurturing what we planned. You know, exactly, it's like we nurture our members. Importance of succession plans, response of Rotarians and Rotary Foundation to disaster, compassion. It's okay not to be okay, and to move forward and faster by adapting and changing, and important for creativity beside the core values of our Rotary. See, let's imagine Rotary, the energy of the youth and the wisdom of the Rotarians, and connect them together by maybe we can increase Rotarians by 100,000 a year. That's a small challenge. Imagine the Rotary with all more women coming to Rotary. Imagine the ROTARACT and their action. Imagine the INTERACT and their action. Imagine a better environment. Imagine peace and harmony. Imagine all the working, beautiful hands and the giving kind hearts and the change that they will do to our world. Mr. Gordon, my wife and I will be carrying your kindness to Ukraine on the 28th of this month after visiting Lebanon, Georgia, Armenia, and Poland. And by the way, she's a dentist and she will be serving in one of the hospitals in Kiev. So, and we cannot be more proud to be Rotarians with leadership like yourself and the leaders that coming up. We are honored and privileged to be listening to you and taking the time of your busy life to inform our Rotarians and invigorate our Rotarians. And I will invite everyone in this meeting and in the world to do one act of kindness every day. And then it will not be, kindness will become a doing and not an act anymore. So thank you again. And we appreciate you and we are all behind you. And we thank you for all the support you give to our Rotarians, ROTARACT, and INTERACT. You're awesome. And I'm going to finish with this little plaque I found. It says, doing good in the world pays little, but the retirement benefits are out of the world. And I want to say, all of you, you are people of action and you are peace builders for every act of kindness you do in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Shab. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President-elect Gordon. We are just 2 minutes late. Sorry about that. And thank you so much for coming.
And I'll see you in Sao Paulo next week.
I look forward to that, Alberto. Yes, indeed.
And say our regards to Heather, please.
I will. Thank you.
Thank
Please
you very much.
your family
Great
and
meeting. Great meeting.
Great
I'm going
meeting.
to open the audio for everybody. So
Yes, please do so. Thank you very much, President-elect.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank you.
Good session. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye
Thank you
now.
very much. Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Thank you.
And we have I have important
Very much. It was a great session.
number 29.
You did a wonderful job.
President nominee
Congratulations.
Thank you.
coming to our meeting, 29th October. President
Thanks,
nominee
Kishan ji and Shab
coming
ji.
to our meeting. So please reserve your day, save the time.
can you repeat, Kishan?
is Stephanie. President nominee is Stephanie coming on 29th.
Oops, please activate your audio. Sorry.
You put me mute. Sorry. So I'm pleased to announce that on 29th of October at the same start time, we will have President nominee Stephanie addressing Rotary Friends in Kindness. And the topic
Excellent.
is Women in Rotary, Past, Present and Future. And we will join by PDG Sylvia Petrov and also PDG Tom will also come, and of course our dear Alberto and our leader Tavel. Please look for that.
Okay, well, let our Rotarian female leaders take the lead even in moderating this session.
Yes,
Okay, so-
sure. That will be wonderful.
Okay.
Great session, sir. We enjoyed a
Muito
lot.
obrigado a todos.
Congratulations.
Gracias a todos por participar.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kishan,
The organizing committee.
Kishan sir,
Wonderful
Great
session.
to listen
Kishan
PDG
sir,
Shah
thank
and
you
our
very much for giving
Las
us
Vegas.
opportunity
Great
for
session.
co-hosting
you very
this
much.
event.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great
Thank
session. Thank you.
You're all
Thank you.
welcome. This is possible because all of you are together. Thank you very much.
More of the session.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A wonderful session.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I got a
Governor
message
Roberta.
from the RR.
Thank you, Governor Roberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishan ji.
Gobernador
you.
Roberta
Thank you.
está saltando você.
It was great to attend this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Really, it was a great session, Goenka sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Atulji. Thank you. Thank you for
My
joining.
pleasure, sir.
Thank
I
you.
like the fireworks at the
Namaskar.
beginning. The fireworks were great.
Thank you, Kishanji.
Yeah, Raju, you're awesome. Thank you very much.
Shab, I'll call you on the WhatsApp now, okay?
We close the meeting.
Carol, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will post the recording of this meeting on our channels on WhatsApp, so you can probably use it as a program in your clubs in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, PDG Sharp. Thank you, Nakzoti, for your help. Thank you.
And also, this meeting was aired on my Facebook, so you can follow that also. Okay, let me see.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Always welcome,
Thank
sir.
you.
Always welcome for
Thank you.
everything.
Hi everyone, I'm Vishnu from RC Supan. Do you have any WhatsApp group?
Please put
Kishan.
WhatsApp number in the chat and we will add you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Thank
invite,
you,
Kishan.
Kishan. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Abato. Thank you, PDG Sharp. Good to see you guys again. Thank you so much.
Oh, I see.
Very
Thank you. All the arrangements you did. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Carol, you are wonderful. You're always there in the meetings. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak Agrawal. Thank you. You're always there with us to support. Okay, then we are not more to talk. We'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. You all have a good evening and we see you next 29th of October with President nominee Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye from
Bye.
Sri Lanka.